but not chicken strips, like, all the chicken.
All right. Good morning. Welcome to the meeting of the Holiday Island Board of Commissioners. Today is Monday, October 30th. This is a business meeting of the board held in public. The board is committed to disclosure of the business activities of the district and to the public, as well as the public's ability to make comments at public meetings. On behalf of the Holiday Island Board of Commissioners, I call this meeting to order. I want to remind all in attendance that the Board of Commissioners acts as a governing body, whereas the district manager is responsible for the day-to-day operations of the district. The purpose of the board, as elected by the property owners, is to provide direction to the district manager and assure the financial solvency of the district. It is not the responsibility of the commissioners to become involved in the daily operations of the district. Let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Stamp, will you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Dowd.
Present.
Commissioner Childress.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Surratt.
Here.
Commissioner Stamp. Here.
With all commissioners present, I declare a quorum. Mr. Mills, the sign-up sheet is up here if you want to.
That's all right.
Okay. Lose your chance to talk.
I got one.
Okay. Commissioners, you have had an opportunity to review the emailed agenda. I would like to amend the agenda to provide new business items 1 and 2, to receive and approve the August and September 2023 end of month financials reports. Any questions or comments about that? Do I have a motion to amend and approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Commissioners, you have all by email the September 25 regular meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as emailed?
Make a motion to approve the minutes in the September 25th regular meeting.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the September 25 regular meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion to approve the minutes is carried. Ceremonial, anyone have any announcements? We will now hear public comments with a 3-minute time limit. Although, Dave Dobrin, Mr. Dobrin, you have a question mark by,
No, I didn't know what we were going to talk about that I might comment on, but
okay.
I thought we were commenting at the end.
Time for public comments as we proceed through the budget and have a motion on the budget. You'll be permitted time to speak about the items on the agenda. Thank you. District Manager, Mr. Presley, what you got for us today?
The only 2 items that I have are the financials, which of course are listed there in the new business, and then just a brief update on the recreation center now that the remainder of that concrete was poured last week, and I went out there and watched those guys for a while, and they're good at what they do. I tell you, that was a complicated pour. There was a lot going on there. They had a ramp, and they had to try to connect various pieces of the foundation together. But it's really looking good. I think things are probably going to accelerate now with that construction now that the foundation is done. And I'll get an update, I'm sure, from C.A. Johnson Construction this week on that. And that's really all I've got other than the financials that we'll get to here shortly.
Thank you, District Manager Presley. Old business, we have none. Our new business, first items 1 and 2, is to receive and approve the August and September 2023 end-of-month financials. And the question is before the board. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes, or the financial reports for August and September?
I make a motion that we consider approval of the financial report for month of August and September.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to receive and approve the financials. District Manager Presley, will you please present the financial report?
Yes, ma'am. Well, Sherry's going to put that up here for us.
Okay, August?
August and September together, I don't know how.
Well, I have them separate.
Can you pull up the September one?
The September one?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Shoot. Sorry. Yeah, I do.
And commissioners, you'll notice as you know, as I typically do these charts, August is really rolled up into this September report, so the information's there. So on this first slide, really what I want to point out there is there's two anomalies. One is the fire department is showing at 170% of budget. Large there.
Enlarge that a little bit so we can, get one more, there we go. That doesn't cut anything off.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Thank you.
And that is all of the equipment that was necessary to purchase to get our ISO rating back. And Chief, thank you for your work on all of that. And then obviously the fire trucks that we bought, those were necessary. It's been a long, long time since Holiday Island has replaced the engines. So we're thankful to the board for all of that. And then the other item there is the recreation center, and of course that is the construction of the recreation center that we're cash funding, and that's a very small budget anyway. But we have paid a good portion towards the construction.
And, could we ask you questions that
Sure.
are longer?
Sure.
You mentioned the ISO report, that's not in yet.
No, they won't be checking us till the very first of the year.
I guess I'll ask the same questions I asked last month. Do you think there's any other items, large or small, that are needed to help you keep that ISO where it is?
If I may, Commissioner Brown, we will talk about that at another time. And that'll give Chief Yates, Randy Yates, that will give Fire Chief time to update us with everything for a later report on ISO standards.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll go to the next one, Sherry. So this is the revenue, which is actually really strong this year. We're at, and I have another chart coming up here later, but based on where we're at for the year, I mean, you can see that the restaurant and meeting rooms are at 136% of projected revenue as of the end of September.
This is really only 3/4 of the year in terms of income.
Correct, yes. And we're way over projected revenue in water, golf operations. Rec center's up a little bit. Let's go ahead and go to the next one, Sherry. So there's where we're at overall, 110% on the revenue side, 93% on the expenditure side. And as I said before, those expenditures that's up primarily due to the fire department expenses that we had with the trucks and whatnot. So we're tracking pretty good this year. There's the AOB revenue. It's showing year-to-date collections. That's the colored line there, yellow line, at 1.56 million. And Jennifer, thank you. She gave me some updated information this morning. We're at 1,930,000 on AOB collections. And remember, there's that phenomena that we deal with because this is enterprise accounting, so it's shown as revenue when it's billed. But what you're looking at here is what is actually collected, is 1.9 million. So really good. Yeah, I figure we'll probably collect 100,000 maybe for the remainder of this year, the next 2 months. So we're going to probably finish the year right at $2 million on AOB collections. Just the same information, another way to look at it. Let's go to the next one. Okay, on this one, you can see that the reserves are at 43.8%, which is pretty strong. And we've had really good interest rates and revenue on the investments in the CDs. So I pointed out to the chair this morning that, as you're aware, we're required to maintain 35% reserves. So that delta between the 35% and 43.8 is $370,000 that we could potentially take out of the investments. And we do have a CD that matures in January. So I just want the board to be aware of that option as we go into the budget discussion.
Can one of the numbers that I have been interested in particularly is our total non-restricted funds in the money market deposit account, because that's where our cash outlays are coming from. So I'm pleased to see that's over $2 million. And I'm looking at the right number there, am I not? Does that include the 700,000, 800,000 in our?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, did you show that as restricted? Okay. She's showing that as restricted. So.
Okay.
So the 2,071 is non-restricted in the money market account, and the 2,239,000, I think, are the restricted.
I'm gonna, when we get on to the next 2 or 3 slides later, I'm gonna show you a different number than what you're looking at here. There are different ways to look at it. There's restricted and then there's encumbered.
Yes.
That are not restricted funds, but just in the course of doing business during the month.
Yes.
There are outstanding checks, there's the petty cash, and there's some other things there that are encumbered.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll share another number with you here in just a minute.
And that would be a good way to look at that, is to consider encumbrances. It's sitting unrestricted, but it is encumbered.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
I interrupted when you were going to talk about what our adjustment to the reserves license were.
Right at $370,000 is the difference between, well, let's call it 44% and 35%. If the board elects to draw down those reserves to some degree. I mean, we could probably draw down, say, 300,000 and still be at around 37%. So, I mean, there's some options there. Just wanted you to kind of visually be able to see where we're at. Okay, let's go to
And
this.
are those, CDs?
There, yes, sir, CDs.
Would they be available?
There's one comes due in January and February and March. So in the first quarter of 2024, there are two different CDs that mature.
Can I say something about the CDs though? Don't forget though, in the CD, that 1.8, that's for the entire CD balance, what we currently have in CDs. A portion of that, 240,000, and I can't say that number, is
Equipment reserve.
is the
633.
equipment reserve. So that is, which is a requirement for Holiday Island. And I've talked with the auditors, and you have to have, there's a percentage or a minimum of $100,000 that has to be for the equipment reserve. So really and truly, the last time I talked and where we were at the percentage, the minimum, our percentage was not over the minimum, so you could still do the just 100,000 in that, which you would be able to release just up to that 140,000. So when you look at that number and the way it's split right now, your reserve is really only about at 38% because that 43 is calculating with that equipment. It has that equipment reserve in it. But you won't be able to take that entire 240 out and move it or whatever. You've got to remember that we have to keep that 100,000 right now at the minimum. If our percentage gets over, which even with our purchase of the fire equipment and everything, we haven't gone over that percentage, so our minimum is still the 100,000.
Did we pay for the fire equipment out of the equipment reserve fund?
We didn't. Y'all had discussed it, but it was in a CD. And at the time, there was money in the money market, and there wasn't any reason to take it out of the CD and face penalties and all of that and lose money when you had it in the money market. Yet there was a discussion that when it comes up, which is either January or February, that y'all would discuss at that time reducing it, moving the overages that were, but it would be in 2024 before that would be done, because at the time that was our next available option at that time. There was for part of the purchase in 2022 when they had sold some of their assets, 114,000 that y'all had set in reserve for that. So of the 289,000 that has been spent on fire trucks this year, 114,000 of it was reserved from the 2022 sale of assets.
Thank you.
Yeah. Off the top of her head.
Yeah.
You're amazing.
Thank you.
Expression of money too.
So this is the other number that I was going to tell you about, the money market balance, 1.7 million. But there were around $30,000 of money that, like I said, the petty cash, outstanding checks and things like that, just in the course of doing business. So some of this money was encumbered. There's actually like 1.67 million that was still free in the money. And you can see kind of where we're at there historically. And then because we've done pretty well on the AOB collections during the month of October, you'll see this uptick again. I mean, you can see every year, obviously, it has that uptick there when we do the AOB collections. October, everybody seems to wait to the last minute to pay. So, we're pretty close to where we were in 2019. I wasn't here then. I'm not sure what was going on in 2019, but that was I think that was pre-COVID, right? Because COVID hit like February 2020. So, anyway, I like to keep an eye on that number every month. And then there's cash flow summary, which basically we've kind of covered all of that. see. Okay. And
Danny, I have
that's,
a collection. Will somebody be talking about that during the budget meeting? I had some concerns about what Carrie had released to the public about certain mortgage companies. People thought they were holding their AOB in escrow account, and in fact they weren't. And I wanted to know if that had all been resolved. And
that company continues to raise their head, and cause problems for people, that causing a lot of confusion about, where, people think it's been paid and it hasn't, or it's been paid and the people were not aware that it had already been paid. So, Carrie, do you want to add something, I guess?
Could you come to the mic, please? I know you have a good outdoor voice, but, that makes it easier on the transcription. Thank you.
Okay, is it resolved? Absolutely not.
Turn it on, please.
Okay. Is it resolved? No. We still, maybe not daily now, but quite often people are calling in because they think their mortgage company took care of it, and they didn't. And what I think has happened is you have all these mortgage companies, and CoreLogic did one heck of a marketing job. They went to all these mortgage companies and said, man, we're your service to handle all your taxes and take the headaches away from you. And it all started last year. We got an email from CoreLogic, and I don't know if we dealt with them in the past or not, but their initial request, they requested what, Sherry, 5,000 assessment amount?
Yeah.
Sherry's was on there, Deb's was on there. No way, some of them, didn't even have mortgages. So we went back to CoreLogic and said, no, this isn't gonna fly. You only send us what you have customer requests for your assessments. And I think they brought us back a second request where they whittled it down to 2,000. And I went back and I said, no, this still isn't gonna fly. You guys are gonna be messing with people. So we got it down to what we felt like was kind of more of a manageable, made sense number. And here they started blasting checks at us, and they would pay 15 assessments at once. Well, we would go to apply that payment, and that assessment was paid. So here we had the quandary of, we had maybe some people that it really was their assessment payment, and some it wasn't. So the poor ladies in the office took the task of trying to contact all these people. And we're getting down to where it's close to due time. And there were some people, yes, I don't know who CoreLogic is, but my mortgage company's supposed to be taking care of it. Then we had, no, absolutely not. I always pay my assessment. So here you had a check for 15 assessments, and maybe 3 of them was all they really were supposed to be paying. So we couldn't cash the check. Because we can't get in the quandary and drive Jennifer up the wall and saying, oh, but we cashed this, but we had to refund it, blah, 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 blah. So it created total havoc. And then what it created for the ladies that had taken all this time trying to do what was right, then we got calls and got screamed at. Well, I called my mortgage company and they said that you guys contacted them wanting our assessment. Well, first off, we have no idea who anybody's mortgage company is. We don't know who has a mortgage, we don't know who doesn't have a mortgage. So we got lots of grief over that. So then come to this year, and we finally got with CoreLogic. We said, we just can't even deal with you. You are paying stuff you're not supposed to be paying, so we can't deal with you. You're going to have to go back to that mortgage company and tell the mortgage company to contact us because it was unmanageable. So then we get to this year, and we get about July, August, and we're thinking, wow, we're really not hearing from mortgage companies. So people started, like we sent out the little yellow reminder card in September, so people kind of start calling in and they say, hey, check see if my assessment's paid. No. So then they're calling their mortgage company. So then we have a few that make it through to CoreLogic, and then we have there's a whole bunch of different ones that pay things. Well, and then we get down to within the week, and people are calling, have you still not got my check? No. So we had several property owners that come in here and brought us a check trying to keep from that nasty 25% penalty. And something people don't realize is we have no control of that 25% penalty. And Phyllis has got to be witness to what we deal with on that. And what I had told people in the past is, it's not a matter of, I mean, we get stories that they're gut wrenching, and I'm sure they're true. But the state of Arkansas says the day after due date, it accumulates a 25% penalty. And the simplest way to put it is, we can't play God. We can't say, oh gee, Rosie, your excuse, we feel it's bad enough, it warrants waiving it. Well, George, sorry, you just forgot. There is no play in it. If we don't have it, it's gonna get a 25% penalty. We're down to the point payments we're getting right now. If it's postmarked after the 16th, the envelope is sitting in there in our mail bag. And we have to leave a little bit of time, because we will have ones come in, believe it or not, that were postmarked October the 15th, and we're still getting them. We don't apply penalties in the system until we feel like we're comfortable, because it's so many steps to go back and try to make that penalty go away. But CoreLogic, I mean, we are still, Bob, getting calls from people. Now, I talked to one lady, and she brought a check in here. She said, hold it for me, because she brought it in like the day for it to due on Friday. And on due date, she called and she says, don't cash my check. My mortgage company is going to go ahead and pay the penalty also. But how we feel in the office, it's criminal what they're doing to all the property owners. And we hate it, but it's out of our control. And that's why during the year, I would come in on the newsletter trying to tell people, please be proactive and start calling your mortgage company in August, September, whatever. You know, don't wait till the last minute. But yeah, they've created a mess. Now, I think it probably is going to be less this year, but one person getting screwed by their mortgage company is too many. But, so that's the status of that.
Gary, and, you know, I commend you and the entire office staff for what you're dealing with. And, you know, this CoreLogic, it's a contracted third party that sells their services to mortgage companies that collect and pay taxes. And I don't know, they may do homeowners insurance too. I don't know what all they do, but the mortgage holder, the person that lives up here on Holiday Island Drive or out on Venus, they've never heard of CoreLogic. They have no idea this is going on behind the curtain.
Well,
You're doing the right thing in communicating.
well, and one of the last, and I didn't go for that, Regina was dealing with one. And these companies, they think due dates are April 15th, okay? So they're calling in here, we want the delinquent amount. Well, they're not delinquent, but anyway, so the last one, I put a copy of that in the newsletter. One of the correspondence we got was that she had gone to her team leader and they had determined that a suburban improvement district assessment was not a tax, so they were refusing to pay any of them. But they have gone and withheld it out of the monthly mortgage to pay it, you know, the mortgage company has. And then last year, what we got so many calls on was whenever they paid it, and because there was some we cashed thinking we were, you know, rightfully doing so, then they went and jacked up everybody's monthly mortgage payment. So it's, I mean, it is a nightmare, but I want to make one brag on the ladies, on Regina, Sherry, Deb, and Stephanie. All the payments that came in, every payment we had in our possession, and mind you, water due date was the 18th. So we didn't just have assessments coming in here, we had the water. Every payment we had by Tuesday at 4:30 was in the system. So they were phenomenal.
And, yeah. Situation where Tim Hutchinson, our attorney, could look into it for us and say, you know, make contact with this CoreLogic. It seems like it's criminal, and you know, people are going to have, but it's about $200 penalty. That's a lot of money if they're late. It's $190 or something, 25% send it 780, or if it's a lot, it'd be less, but wouldn't this be something that, ladies have just done a great job, I agree with Bob and everybody here at the table, but doesn't this look like a legal situation?
I guess reasonable people would disagree whether it's criminal or not. I don't think what they're doing is illegal. I think it's shady, and it obviously causes a lot of confusion. And I guess there could be instances where someone's late penalty was because they thought CoreLogic paid, but CoreLogic didn't pay. So
I think they'd be screaming at their mortgage company.
yeah,
that's kind of.
it's sort of determined the property. I'm happy to have Tim look at it or give me an opinion on it.
My mortgage company, they jacked it up to take care of it. And I kept telling them that special assessments are not taxes. That's between property owner and the billing. And but anyway, they went ahead and did it. Well, about 6 months later, I get a big check from them refunding my escrow account. So some of them are getting aware of it, but mine finally did. It was after willing and gnashing of teeth and saying, no, something's not right here. But anyway, they finally got it right.
I wouldn't call it criminal, I'd call it very sloppy. But anyway, I'm sorry I took us on this sidetrack, but I think it's important, and my heart bleeds for the people that are affected by this, that it's going on, and they don't even know it. I know.
Carrie's doing a good job of getting the information out, and that's important.
I'm wondering if Carroll County or Eureka Springs are very well on their taxing authority. That's kind of,
I know there's issues, Kim, but I don't know why, because sometimes they'll ask us questions about the county taxes, is all I'm basing that on. CoreLogic will get over into that, so I know they're dealing with county taxes, but I don't know. Where are we?
Find that
I got lost.
I'm finished.
Are you finished with it?
I'm
Okay.
happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Do you have any more questions for the district manager?
Danny, what Jennifer just said is going into the next section, or after we finish. Then, what is the figure, Jennifer, that we have to go forward with the budget? So I'm gonna write this down so I know what it is. The figure that we would have, it was higher, as you said, because of the restricted.
Oh, the reserve at where it is right now, as of September, it would be 38%.
Does anyone wish to speak in favor or in opposition to the motion? Mr. Crowe, you have well, you want to talk about the budget, you're not wanting to talk about the financials. So there is no discussion no discussion or opposition. Commissioners, are you ready for the motion? The motion is to receive and approve the August and September 2023 end of month financial reports. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and financial statements are accepted. The question is consideration and action to approve the budget for fiscal year 2024. Do I have a motion to consider the question?
So,
I have a second.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to consider the question. For this meeting, the district manager will provide an overview of the budget. Then he'll break down the budget into, by departments, and we'll discuss each of the items separately as we go through the budget. Mr. Presley, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am. I think for starters, I'd like to explain kind of how this process works, and the way I've always done the budget is almost like zero-based budgeting. Now, I do ask each of the directors to present a budget and articulate, what their needs are for their departments. And then we go back through that. And Jennifer and I did that last week, in fact, again, line by line, with each department, see where the increases were and where we might be able to make some cuts, maybe some cases where we are underspending in the current year, which is usually things like utilities or phones or some sort of supplies or whatnot. And if we see that we're on track to underspend that line item, then we'll drop that amount, for the upcoming year for 2024. So we did that all the way through here, and the end result was right at a $660,000 deficit, and about $450,000 of that is us cash funding the remainder of the recreation center. And so currently where we stand with the budget as it is right now is that we would have to dip into the reserves or fund balance in the money market account by about $205,000 to make up that deficit. So that's where we're at, and that is without a COLA, and that is without considering any of the capital improvement projects that are on the list for 24. Which, as we've done in years past, we'll just have to work through that list and decide, what we can. Now, fortunately, revenue is up, and we're going to finish the year, a little bit ahead of what we anticipated in terms of on the revenue side. AOB collections are looking pretty strong, about as good as they've been in the last 4 or 5 years. I'm happy to answer any questions at the outset here, or we can start, going through line by line for each department, or whatever the board prefers.
Quite a large amount compared to other years, $510,000 for accommodating those turnback lots that we're not getting funding from. And before, I'm looking on the audience, there are several people in the audience that wondered about that, or why.
Foreclosures?
Yeah.
That's basically $510,000 that we anticipated we would not collect because they weren't billed, they were in foreclosure or come back to HICID after the result of a foreclosure process.
Well, I appreciate you putting it in this budget because it hadn't been before.
Thank you to Jennifer for, she's got her eye on the ball in terms of that, and that's true. Typically, as I said, this when you're doing enterprise accounting, you have to show a revenue whenever you bill it out. But I did an analysis, this was about 6 to 8 months ago, I guess, of how much of what we bill out do we actually collect, and it's about 80 to 82% is about what we collect from AOBs.
So we had 18% fallout.
Yes, sir. That's about right. Because we billed out about $2.5 million, and as I mentioned to you earlier, we're going to finish this year right around $2 million. what we'll actually collect. So that's 500,000 that we will not collect. And we just have to count on that and call it like it is up front. Not be counting on that money. Very nice.
Oh, that's okay. Because would it be beneficial, Jennifer, do you have like each department on your laptop?
Mhm.
Would it be beneficial if she plugged into her laptop where you could look at that?
Well, I sent it to Sherry.
Oh, okay.
She's got
The
it.
budget.
Okay.
So I just didn't notice that she hadn't put it up there yet, but she's got it.
Well, something, and then I've always wished in the past, because we have to put what we build just to reconcile back to the system. And then Jennifer, have you figured out a way to kind of bring that out there where people see what we're actually dealing with?
Mhm.
Okay, because whenever we process a billing, because right now, we have an accumulation of 2 or 3 years because it's sitting at the attorney. And that's how we come up to take that 500,000 out, okay? So you've got that there. Now here's something that a lot of people miss, and just because we deal with it, when we put payments in, we have to take $54.23 off of every one R1 payment we apply. And we have to take that amount and plug it into the sewer debt. So when you have an assessment and you think it's 700 whatever, 54.23 out of every one of those is going over and gonna be put aside for the sewer debt. The R3 properties is 69.44. The timeshares, at one time, the timeshares paid a much larger assessment based on there being so many people in there. There was a lawsuit. They went back down and fell as an R1 assessment. So on that $780 assessment, $542.50 of it has to go to the sewer debt, because that's the way the financing was set up. So everybody, when you see this number, sometimes people forget you've got a grab of what goes down to pay on the sewer debt. And whenever the wastewater treatment plant was built, the state of Arkansas said, you will fund it half out of your water payments, and you will fund it half out of your assessment payments. So everybody pays toward that because everybody has access to it. When you utilize it, you pay more toward it on your water bill based on your consumption. So that's something, whenever we see a number there are things that have to become chunked out of it to what we actually have that we have access to. So that's just something I'd like to clarify, because a lot of people miss that. And if Jennifer, if you come up with a way to make it where you see that negative number, because that always threw people, why are we saying we build this, but here you're okay with just collecting this? Well, because all those properties that are still sitting in gold mines, the one that comes to my mind,
Sherry,
we still got to bill that, even when we know we're not gonna get a penny on it. We have to bill them because that's the record owner.
This is where she's got it in there. If you look at that line item, 440, she's got less the foreclosures that have been collected. That's showing that 510,000 there.
Awesome, okay,
Yeah.
yes, I think that's much better for people to understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you can see in the analysis that I do each month, sorry. And you can see each month the analysis that I do and that I submit, where each of the payments are allocated, and I tie it back to the balance sheet. So that way you can see what the dollar amount is that you've received on current assessments, what is still remaining in the AR on the balance sheet, and it's done for each of the balance sheet accounts and everything on that analysis that I submit each month.
Can you increase the size of the screen?
How do I get that bigger?
Bottom right,
Down to the
there's the
bottom.
plus sign up there. There you go. Now, can we just start back over at admin? First tab there.
Can I just ask one?
Sure.
We've never done that before, we've never shown an allowance for loss before, or not?
Not as clear as that.
Not
As clear as you said, okay.
from what I
believe so.
from what I was able to look at, especially when I started analyzing a lot and doing the analysis that I've been working on this past couple of weeks. It wasn't. So really, when you look at it and what was budgeted for revenue and stuff last year, it was really overstated because there wasn't that. And I know you've got your increase and everything like that, but and for some of the departments where it shows that we're over in revenue, but when you look at what was budgeted at the time in 2022, and then from where we are at 2023, you will expect to see the increase in some of the departments because the budget was approved before some of the fees and everything were increased. So you would expect to see all of that, which you're not going to see as much of the percent increase this following year because the budget that we worked on has those new fees and everything in there at this time.
That's a good point. For example, water, when we added the $5 onto the water, I mean, you're seeing, that's why their percentage of revenue is 120% or whatever it was, that we did not anticipate. We didn't know there was going to be that increase when we did the budget, so. But I do anticipate another increase after the community water rate study, and that's, as you all know, that's per state law, is that you have to have that study done, and it has to be 105% funded because of the capital and infrastructure costs. So we'll see that increase probably in 2024. I didn't budget in that manner, so that would just be windfall, whatever that increase is.
Latest word, Danny, on when Communities Unlimited will do that?
Well, I met with them on Tuesday at that water infrastructure workshop. And in fact, Brad Jarrett, one of the state directors, was there. And then the lady who's working our study, Sheriff Alford, was also there. And I asked that question. I said, hey, I think we're at a standstill here. Well, they're waiting on the audit. We don't have our audit yet. And about once a month, I send an email down to John and Gaines and say, hey, where are we at? We're still waiting to get the audit. And once they have the audit information, they can move forward with the rate study.
Okay.
Can you scroll down a little bit, Sherry, near the bottom, so you can see the bottom line for admin? Okay, there it is. So, Jennifer, I think you have a more recent version, am I correct? Because after you and I went through last Monday, we got some things. And I did not, those changes are not tracked on this copy that I have here. Can we plug hers into the
Do you have an
screen?
HDMI?
I just remembered
I just think the HDMI
the vetting
cord.
that we did last week may not be
So this
reflected in this
I
version.
think it's that one, the HDMI.
This is camera.
Oh, not camera. Oh wait, yeah. Would it?
This is camera.
It's
Is it this one?
This one.
Oh, the red
Oh,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the right one?
Do you have HDMI?
Mhm.
Okay, good. Sorry, Jerry, I
That's okay.
didn't think about that, but just want to make sure we're looking at the most recent version, because when we vetted through all of this, she was making the changes.
There we go.
While they set all that up, Danny, one of the things I was thinking would be good to look at, considering that we had an increase in the water bill by $5 a month and increase in the golf fees, would be to look at the accumulated income of August of last year versus August of this year for those two areas and see
To
how
see the
much
impact of
was that,
those
what the impact
increases.
was. Yeah.
Well, you gotta take into consideration, last year, we were dealing with the COVID situation. And this year, we're not. It's not nearly as bad, so it's just, those two figures would be distorted as they could be.
It's hard to quantify the impact of COVID or coming out of COVID.
It'd just be good to look at the year-to-date figures for those 2 years.
2022, weren't we pretty much back to normal on that?
You know, I'm trying to find something remarkable here to comment on in the admin, but it's really a pretty clean budget. There's no anomalies in here. Wages, we did reduce wages in admin by 14,000 and something. And if I'm not mistaken, we reduced wages in 2022 because we restructured some in the office staff here. You know, so total wages and burden, you know, we're down about $12,000. Down a little bit in operating by 1,000. Any questions on admin? I mean, it's just.
We had 8% cost of living for every employee last year, for this year, right, for 2023.
Yes.
Say we adjusted some of the people, like some of them were from $14 to $15 an hour or whatever, but everybody got 8% in the whole.
Yes.
James talking about losing an employee.
Well,
Readjusting.
Carrie manages the hours of the office staff, and she does a good job doing that, and she has controlled, you know, personnel costs, but they're still getting the job done. These ladies work really hard.
And what we have is 2 of our ladies are working 4 days a week rather than the 5. And that in the tide is working, and that's what we will try to continue. But there are weeks that, you know, we have to go past that, but that's kind of what the gist of how there is a little bit of a reduction.
They work 8 hours a day, 4 days a week.
Does the operation of this building fall under admin or?
Well,
the structure and.
yeah, like things like utilities and
Yes.
whatnot are divided out. So like the restaurant clubhouse has utilities, off maintenance, you know, down at Fort Apache, the water department, yeah, it's all billed out.
Well,
Telephones
you
are
may
billed
guess,
out.
you may guess where I'm going with this. We lost a tenant.
Oh, yeah. That revenue goes away.
Right.
Yeah.
We lost a tenant that was, chipping in a pretty good chunk of money
Yeah, I think
every month.
Was it $1,200 a month? Yeah, $1,200 a
So
month.
there's-
So 14,000,
$14,000.
14.
Yeah,
So-
there's the variance right there, and that's what the decrease is. Right there on that line
See that
item,
office rental
that first line
drops from
item.
18 to 3,600. And the 3,600 is the apartment downstairs.
So, my question to you, sir, is have a plan what to do with that vacant space that has become available and.
Well, I can say I hate to give it up. Talk about what to do with it, but we're pretty tight in this building in terms of storage, and we have a basement full of hundreds of boxes. Fortunately, we got rid of, I don't know how many 100 boxes that those ladies worked for weeks, months to get rid of, purging old records that have been down there for literally decades. But we just don't have a lot of space in this building for storage, and I'm a little reluctant to give that up right now, but.
If we have a use for it, I think everybody would agree that's good, but, just going to sit vacant, I would hope we explore opportunities.
Oh, I agree with Bob and what you just said about, and the other thing I wanted to comment on, and I was going to say with the commissioner comments, but I think it's important in this slide that's on the screen right now, and that is the audit firm. I would like us to, at a later meeting, put out an RFP for a new audit firm. This is the second that we've been really late. And then you just mentioned our water meeting, that you said the reason we're not water studies, we're waiting for the audit. Well, it's November 1st in 2 days, and 10 months of the year has gone by. If we should be, we're paying $25,000 for an audit from an audit firm, we should have the same priority as Tyson Foods or Walmart or somebody.
Well, when this question came up last year, I looked back through all the online information, on the online information about the audit, and it was presented at the October, November meeting for the last at least 10 years. Because that question came up, and I thought, well, let's see when they normally did it, so I went back and looked. It's always been in the fall.
But it seems as though we had a lot more information, it was like August, September. And a lot of firms, I mean, there's 10 months go by, they've got clients, and evidently they do theirs. Why wouldn't we get a firm that would do it earlier in the year?
Is there something that comes out, I mean, I'm not an accountant, I'll be the first to say that. But my understanding of an audit is what it basically does is says, your financial records are accurate. Is there anything more that comes out of an audit other than that?
Well, I'll ask Jennifer then, you're a CPA, why would we be doing an audit other than it's required, state law, I suppose? But what does an audit give us that we wouldn't get if we didn't get one? Okay, simple question.
Well, I mean, it gives you a lot of the requirements and everything from, the GASB standpoint and all of that. I mean, and you've got to have those financials, especially if here in the coming years or whatever, if y'all want to go out for bonds and things like that, you want a clean audit as far as bond ratings and things like that to get the better interest rates and everything. If you've got deficiencies in your financials or in your audit report or things like that, that will affect your ratings.
But we haven't had deficiencies in the last year or so, have we?
No, ma'am.
No. So are we learning anything from it that we don't know by just looking at our monthly, reports? I mean, I know we have to do it legally.
Right. I mean, the thing that, there's different things in there that I don't do that the auditors have to do as far as the firemen's pensions and, things like that. There's all of those reviews and actuarial, that word. There's all of those that, the auditors and all of that have to prepare, and that's in the notes and everything as your financials. As far as what's being changed and added to any of the entries that I'm doing at the end of the year, there's very few entries. I do know that there are changes talking with the auditors. That's shown on the balance sheet right now. It's just that one entry. Other than that, the main entries that they always look at is like the uncollectible allowance for uncollectible debts and things like that, because there's certain percentages and things that they look at, all the fire pensions and things like that.
I think Suzanne's point is that we don't need as a board or as an operating system to have that audit in our hands any quicker. Yes, community limited is kind of a special thing, it's not something we do every year. And we've had a long-standing auditor who's presented the audit to us in roughly the same time and the same manner.
Also, you have issued bonds, and those bondholders are entitled to an audit of what's going on, and they're entitled to a timely audit. You got $3 million out there in bond debt service that they have every opportunity and need to see what's going on. So timely audits are important. They're very important, and we're not getting them on a timely basis. And I couldn't agree more. We need to take a look at who is doing it on a timely basis so that we can make better decisions. And we have a responsibility for it to be on a timely basis to all the people that has an investment in our community.
I guess the definition comes down to timely. There is the answer.
I mean, it has been in the fall every year for.
There's no reason for it to be that late, just because it's always been that way.
I mean, I'm not advocating that we keep the same auditor. Just an observation. We can go out and do RFPs and RFQs for a different auditor,
See what their timeline is.
see what the timeline is. Given a different timeline than what we have received from Landmark, because we had this conversation with them last year and told them that we wanted the audit much sooner. And they assured us that it would be done much sooner, and that
But they did have, they did.
2 days.
Thank you.
So any other observations, questions on admin? Okay, can we go to the general fund? General fund is basically the AOBs, and you can see there that that's where she made the adjustment for what I would call uncollectibles, penalties, and then there's our interest income. That's, $165,000 is what we project for interest income, which is pretty good in this market, unless you're buying a house. So. One thing that I think is noteworthy on here is if you could scroll up just a little bit more right there, legal fees. That's $108,000 increase for legal fees, but we've got 1,600 roughly foreclosures to be finished up at $250 is what we pay per property to go through that foreclosure process. This is that backlog that came from the COVID era. And so once we get this tightened up, it will be much, much less. I think we were talking before, maybe 100, 150 a year, something like that. Was that kind of the norm, Carrie? Yeah, so this will look a lot different in a year or two when we get this backlog cleared up. That's a lot of foreclosures.
How's that going to affect, Jennifer, how's that going to affect that $500,000 number?
I mean, that's why it's there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that
Because
change the dynamics of the whole budget, doesn't it?
Right, because
Explains why we have less.
Right, because if you look at the budget for 2024, we've got 2.5 million. Well, that was a number that I got from Carrie and Regina. That is where we stand as a
Money well spent, put claim, something that could be done to roll those over to us, but,
But in the foreclosure business, to do a foreclosure for $250 is cheap. That's what we've been paying for the last, I don't know, however many years since that other guy was doing. So yeah, it's
And we've had people say, quit doing the foreclosures. Well, number one, the state law says shall foreclose on it. I don't know if you guys remember Maryland, whenever she had a commissioner tell her that, she says, well, great, I own the lot next to me, I'm gonna go buy the lot on the other side of me, and then I just won't pay assessments if you're never gonna foreclose. And that was a scary proposal.
And that, I want to piggyback on what you said earlier about the fact that we have no choice to add the late fee, the 25%. The reason we have no choice is that's state law. The state law says a suburban improvement district shall apply a 25% late fee. So that's why that is what it is. Keep us out of hot water.
And to tell you the integrity of the admin staff, I have an employee that has a brother that owns a property and they forgot to pay their assessment on time. She charged them a penalty. You just can't.
It's like
It's-
playing your mother.
As
Oh
far,
yeah, whenever she saw it, she goes, oh.
as far as the foreclosures go, you have to have title to the property. I was on one project that they'd go to the state and buy them, but they'd never record them. And so therefore, it just kept showing delinquent. But anyway, they were sitting on it. And time that it ever came to the surface that they had them whenever they sold one of those lots to somebody. And all of that delinquency piled up on top of it that they expect you to write off. And it's a pain. So when you do the foreclosure, it becomes a clean property. And also that takes it away from the taxing authorities of the county. And so, yeah, it's $250 is a cheap method of getting it cleaned up.
Okay,
I have a really good idea about how to put those back on the assessment rolls. Share it with you later.
I'm anxious to hear that. I guess we can move on to water. Well, it's showing that $35,000 increase there on line 420 is not intended to encompass the increase from the rate study. That's just a nominal increase that just based on the $5 that we just did, because we didn't capture a full year of that this year. So, just a modest increase. Let's see. Sewer sense. Any questions on it? I mean, I don't see anything.
There's nothing glaring.
Okay.
Jim, I think you answered this earlier in the meeting, but what is the expansion of the sewer plant that 12 years ago?
Well, I know it's supposed to pay off in 2028 or 29, but I couldn't tell you the balance off the top of my head. I could get that information for you.
5 million borrowed in the beginning.
I think Commissioner Stamp said around 3 million.
I think, okay, it's floating around there somewhere, I believe.
I actually have it.
Yeah, we got this letter in,
I've got it up front.
Doesn't,
Stephanie has.
it's just telling me how much.
that's the annual amount owed. Is that what that is? That's
No,
one year's worth?
every 3 months, I get a new one because, the adjustment to you pay off so much principal, then the next quarter, the interest and all that. I thought it may have the, total outstanding on that letter, but it doesn't.
So what's their bottom line on this one?
Sure.
Looks like O&M is basically the same. Wages were, I think, $3,482 increase on wages, which is very little because that's roughly six employees. Any questions on water? There is a request, and Dan, by the way, Dan is on vacation, and so that's why he's not here with us. They do have a request on the CIP to purchase a truck. And get to that when we get to it. But so let's go to roads, I guess. There were
Are we allowed to ask questions? Well, I'm just, on the water, does that include any of the infrastructure work y'all are doing, like the PRVs, well number 5?
the PRVs are finished. Well, number 5 is not shown on here. It
How
will
about
be
the
under
sewer
CIP.
upgrade that's coming up in a year? Is that, any of that kind of stuff included in this?
That would also be on the CIP.
Okay,
Those types of projects.
sorry.
No problem.
Sorry. There is some, it was on the general fund list to be done, but
At the wastewater treatment plant is that money there was set aside for those 2 projects.
But it's not enough for those 2.
No, correct. On roads, you can see a $27,000 decrease there. And we are discussing freezing one of those positions in roads. And, you know, we can do that intermittently. We can, you know, if it's during severe winter weather, and, you know, coming into that season, we may have to have that person, but we might be able to free up that position in the spring. So I think we'll just kind of have to play that by ear. But right now, we've done fairly well the last, it's been 4 months or so that we've not had that position. We hired someone for a week and then they didn't work out. But I'd like to be able to, obviously, you know, control those salary costs where we can.
So that's a position we're,
Like we've been
Okay,
trying to
yeah,
fill that
that's-
position for
so we're operating fine
so far.
so far, like
Now,
everything else. So
in a winter storm situation, we could certainly use that extra person, but I know that Tyler and his guys always jump in and help. And I mean, when we have winter weather, you know, try to get our roads cleared up. And
Got another question on that, on 696, the only way I can find these things. Pest control, it was 7,000 this budget year, and now it's going down to 12,000. That less storms or what?
what line item are you looking at?
Probably things we have stuff on hand.
696 on the left hand code number.
Yeah, the projector's a little bit off center. I think it's off the screen.
where
It's
the
right
blue
there.
highlight is.
Yeah, that-
I'm sorry, what was the question?
So if we have the same amount of snow and nobody knows what the farm is on that, what we're gonna get, but I would assume it would be,
yes, there's a possibility of that too.
He also is using more brine than chemical. We got a different tank that we purchased, and he's kind of changed up the system, and it's a little more efficient now. And he's spending less on chemical, and then tries to pre-treat with the brine. And that Mike's been doing road construction and road maintenance work for 25 years. He's pretty good at it. That he's found some efficiencies, I think, that are going to help us.
the person that you said is frozen in the winter time, but you haven't filled it, would that be a person that would be, somebody else would have to drive in the storm?
Everyone in the roads department is driving something in a winter weather.
Saying is if you have one less person, does that mean we're gonna have to go to departments to get people to drive during the storm?
Yes, sir. But I'm not convinced that we need to freeze that position right now until maybe we get through the winter months, so that we're not, and we've been actively trying to fill this position for about 4 months. And we've advertised it, and Mike even put out flyers all around, different places in the community, and Eagle Rock and Berryville, and, the areas where we typically draw employees from. It's just hard to.
He has had 4 applications this week or last
good.
week.
So what you're saying is that if we we receive a qualified applicant and decide that we can, someone to go ahead and do that.
Yes.
But
And usually we, through attrition, we have an opportunity to capture salary savings at some point through, just naturally gonna have some degree of turnover.
And if you look at it too, last year when we were doing the 2023 budget, he had the exact same personnel. You didn't cut personnel, but he still had those two open positions. We come a year later, he still has the same personnel with two open positions. So that's why for this budget, in order to cut costs, Danny said, just freeze one to see what it would do to the budget. So it gave him the opportunity to still fill one, but because of the way the budget was and the deficit that you're currently in, freeze one and see if you can get through. If you decide not to freeze it, then I would need to go back into the salary calculations because that deficit that you're seeing at the on the budget summary does not include those freeze because that's saying, you're going to freeze it for that year to see where you can be at.
I want to point out just real quickly on that line 35, the leased equipment, that's the backhoe. And we did not receive that backhoe at the beginning of 23. We got it like later on in the year, so that's why you're seeing that $29,000 there. Can you scroll down just a little bit more, Jennifer, and see what else was? So, it's like a $35,000 increase in O&M. That's CIP, yeah. Less CIP equipment. Any other questions on roads?
The number of roads that Mike wants to pave, those 20,000 sins this year. Are we waiting to see in terms of what the city might do and the coordinated effort we did on State Line and Hawk, or where are we on that in terms of this budget?
There's the debate about how much taxpayer dollars can you apply to roads that are owned by HICID. And, we're to that. The attorneys, our attorney and the city's attorney, are in negotiations or discussions about how we're going to work this out and how can we use that turnback funds on these roads and do so legally without, the state taking that money back. Or so. At the moment, the attorneys can't agree on what the answer is on how to use that money. And we don't know yet if the city's going to get turnback funds in 2024. Usually it's every 2 or 3 years. Well, they got money last year. They may not get money in 2024. So that's still kind of up in the air. I see one of the council members here. Do you happen to know, have y'all got any word on your?
I think the decision is made in either November or December.
Okay. I had sent Mayor an email, I think it was Thursday, to ask if he had any update on the city road revenue.
That's not turnback, that's a grant.
Right.
The turnback funds we already have, we've got like $350,000 on hand.
Okay. Waiting to hear from Tim or Justin on. They were supposed to be meeting.
And our
like a month ago.
projection is to finish State Line and do
Woodsdale.
Mm-hmm.
But Danny, I guess if we don't get that grant, which is 50-50 maybe, are we going to put any in this budget for HICID for paving or chip and seal at all, any streets, roads?
Well, I was going to ask you that question, sir.
That's the CIP.
That's a CIP issue to be decided on when we get to the CIP. It is listed there as a possibility. Yeah, 200,000.
let's, take a quick break. And
Can I prompt something?
no, I would think too, if we're finished with this particular discussion, then start the next.
Yeah, we can start
Let's
with fire when we
take a
come
quick
back.
break. I'm not putting a time on it, get back as soon as you can.
Using your computer